don't eat too much bread now. Don't eat too much bread now. You've been eating bread this week, and I know you're enjoying yourself. You're thinking to yourself, finally, I can chew on some carbs. Don't eat too much bread. Be balanced. Be balanced. Everything in proportion, and be moderate in all things. I want to take you back, however, to 1 Kings chapter 19. And I want to milk this verse for everything that's in it, because there's some powerful things that I believe God is trying to say to you today. The angel of the Lord, chapter 19, verse 7, came back the second time, touched him and said, arise, eat, because the journey is too great. Verse 8, chapter 19, verse 8. So he arose and ate and he drank, and he went in the strength of that 40 days and 40 nights as far as Horeb, the mountain of God. So watch this. Look at what happens. God is amazing. There is significance in numbers, and there is significance in places in Scripture. 3, the number of God. 4, the number of the world. 6, the number of rebellion. 7, the number of perfection. 12, the number of the kingdom. 10, the number of law. 40 days is a time of transition, change. If you remember, Moses was on the mountain with God for 40 days and 40 nights. Watch this. Elijah goes to the same mountain, Mount Horeb. The same mountain where Moses received the law from God is the same mountain where Elijah now finds himself, the mountain of God, Horeb. He journeys there to Horeb. The Bible tells us there, in that 40-day experience, he goes and he has an encounter with God. During these 40 days, we are praying for an encounter with God, an experience with God, a touch from God. We want to have a mountaintop. Here we go. I want to have a mountaintop experience with God like Moses had, like Elijah had, in the very presence of God for 40 days. Moses was there for 40 days. Elijah was there. He had a 40-day span. He had an encounter with God right there on Horeb, the mountain of God. The Bible tells us in verse number 9, and there he went into a cave and spent the night in that place. And watch this. Behold, the word of the Lord came to him, and he said to him, what are you doing here? So the word of the Lord came to Moses on Mount Sinai. The word of the Lord now comes to Elijah on Mount Sinai. 40 days, the word of the Lord is coming to you right now in your mountaintop experience. The word of the Lord is coming to you. And here's the word of the Lord. This is what God asked the prophet Elijah. What doest thou here? What are you doing here? Why that question? It's a time for self-assessment. It's a time for personal evaluation. So God is saying to you, during this 40-day time period, what are you doing? What are you doing with me? What's your experience going to be like with me? What doest thou here? In every facet of your life, ask yourself, what are you doing? What am I doing? In your family life, what are you doing? What are you doing? In your choices, what are you doing? On your job, why am I here? In life in general, that's a critical question that every believer needs to ask, that God is asking you today, what doest thou here?